Let's start learning about Malchus, about being kings. Not exactly the way we're looking right now. Hashem yirachem on us really fast. עוד לא התחלנו, שנייה, אז לא התחלנו. You have to laugh. If you don't laugh, you're going to cry river. You gotta, no? If you don't laugh, you're just going to... All right, so we're learning the month of Teves, Leilui Nishmas Bas Yefega Bas Yisrael, Leilui Nishmas Pinchas Menachem Ben Avram David, Leilui Nishmas Frida Simon Bas Yitzchak, and by the Reinitz family in honor of the Reinitz birthdays in Teves, Liora, Gilad, and Yuri. The week is sponsored by Avram and Miriam Deutsch, Leilui Nishmas Avram's mother, Sarah Reitza Bat Sion Bas Avram Yaakov, Tzchon Levracha. Also, I went to go see Tom yesterday. I want to focus our learning again more and more for Shlomo of Ariel ben Dorit. Today is also the yortzeit of someone I was very mushpa from. I mentioned it last night in this year, Meir ben Yitzchak. It's Meir Banai's yortzeit is today. His 8th yortzeit. Who died while being in love with the Torah. Give us a bracha to be madly in love with learning Torah. And you're supposed to say Amen when I say it. And not like, I don't know. Freaked out. You're madly in love with, huh? That's the thing, is that we're scared to say Amen because it's like, oh, that means I have to learn all day long. When you're in love, you want to do everything for your love. Pasha, yeah, Be'ahava, Mamish Be'ahava. Mamish Be'ahava. Okay, we're just going to start today. We're not going to go for too long because there's a lot going on over here. Let me just make sure I take concept of time. Hey, Rav Shlomo. Perfect timing. Let's go for it. The gates for it should be open. This should be a Zgula right now. This should be Mashpia and Am Yisrael, the Ratzon to have a Melech. A Ratzon to have Melech, a Mashiach come and just Amish do what he's going to do, which we're going to be learning about right now. We're up to Malchus. Chesed Gvura Tiferes Netzach Hod Yesod Malchus. Shleimus Hagilui. Malchus is a complete state of Hashem being revealed. No concealment. Can you imagine that? There's no hide and seek anymore. Gan Eden Alei Adam. No more hide and seek. I have to find you. I have to look. I have to search for you. I fall down. I get back up. Shleimus Hagilui. The completion of revelation.
Is it almost like Elul's one, where he's always in the Seder? Is that like... Or it's even greater than...
Infinitely greater than that. That's still in the paradigm of hide and seek. Even though he's in the Sadeh, it's a nice it's nice mashal that the Alter Rebbe says, but it's even more. It's even more. אנחנו ביחד בתוך הארמון. אתה מבין את ההבדל?
You can't be intimate in the Sadeh.
You can't be, very good. You can't be intimate in the Sadeh.
Why not?
Why not?
Well,
That's right.
it's not tzanua.
If nobody's around?
It's not how... You do what you got to do, brother. We're gonna stick to what we got to do.
The cure was conquered.
See, you have to no. Life's so insane that you need these, you need mash. Was it?
The cure was conquered because the women in the sky beautified themselves, right?
The what was conquered?
The cure was made
The
out
kir, the sink. Yes.
But didn't the women seduce their husbands while in the fields?
When they came, it was
No, when they came back.
when they came back from working in the fields.
Yeah.
No.
In the fields, no.
Chas v'shalom. No, again, I don't want to ruin your. I don't want to ruin the script, whatever you got. Whatever needs to be done. No, Malchus we're speaking about something else over here. We're going from Mashiach ben Yosef to Mashiach ben David. Now, this is very important. All the stuff we spoke about until now, in terms of Mashiach, in terms of Geula, it's an aspect of Mashiach ben Yosef, which is still not a complete revelation of what's going on, but it's crucial. According to our Masoret, Mashiach ben Yosef is someone that will be killed while fighting, while protecting. It's interesting, I have a recording of Rav Shlomo the night that Rav Kahana was killed, November 1990. And he makes a reference to Mashiach ben Yosef that night. It's very interesting. Tzarich Iyun, I have to go back to it. Some of you weren't even born then, right?
91, yeah.
91. Do you remember when he was killed? Yeah. Do you remember it, Josh?
No.
You were around. You just probably wasn't in the parsha.
I was in a different world.
Probably wasn't in the parsha.
So does it bring down anywhere that there could be such a vast time difference between Mashiach and Yosef, Mashiach and David? Or it's one after another?
About time?
I don't know where the reference is about time. Like either this way or that way. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know. That's already 30, 35, whatever. That was a while ago already.
35 years ago.
Okay. So when we're speaking about Malchus, we're going again now. We're going into Mashiach ben David, Malchus Yehuda. What we learned about on last Shabbos, when Yaakov Avinu gives the bracha to Yehuda, he says, Yehuda, ata yeducha achecha, yishtachavu lecha achecha. You, it's going to be through you. It's going to be through you. In Ishbitz, they go wild with this, because they're basically saying that the Malchus went from Yosef, who's the tzaddik, to Yehuda, who's the Baal Tshuva. That Malchus goes dafka through the Baal Tshuva. And today, we're all begeder the Baal Tshuva. We're all begeder the Baal Tshuva. We're all Talmidim in Eniklach of Yehuda. Even me, as a Kayan who comes from Levi, the Malchus in my life, personally, in each person's life, is channeled through Yehuda. And Rabbi Nachman writes in the Kutim Maharan, surely you and I learned this, that each person has a bechina of Malchus in their life. Each person is a balabas to a certain extent in his own life, whether it's his family, whether it's certain friendships. Each person has to be in tune with the concept of Malchus. Malchus, real Malchus, is leis le migrami klum, which means that Malchus, from my own being, my own experience in this world, is nothing. The Malchus I could have in my life is only by getting rid of whatever yeshus, whatever me is here, making space for the Malchus of Hashem to be active in my life. Enod milvado, literally enod milvado. So here we're seeing over here, when we go into Malchus, we're going into this paradigm. There's going to be an important chazara on the next page, as you'll see. But for now, let's start learning the last parak. It's actually not the last parak, it's the last sphira, but I saw he sneaks in here a very interesting parak in like 2 pages. Okay, so Rav Ginsburg says like this, Bedobreinu al tikun ha-malchus, anu ovrim mi'imos Mashiach ben Yosef li'imos Mashiach ben David, like we've been saying. Tikun ha-metzius ad ata, היה בגדר מפגש מאחד בין המים התחתונים והמים העליונים, שהופרדו מרשי סבריה על מנת לשוב ולהתחבר. The fixing of the reality that we've been speaking about until now is a meeting, is a unifying meeting, like we've been speaking about the last 2 weeks, between the lower waters and the upper waters, which were separated already in Ma'aseh Bereshis, only to be reconnected again in the times of Mashiach. Do you remember we were speaking about lower waters and higher waters? Remember what each one represented? You remember what were the lower waters? Chochmas ha'olam, right? Science and all those things. And also, what did that lean more? To what side did it lean more? The lower waters, left or right? Left. Zachar and Nekeva? Nekeva, very good. Right. Chochmas ha'Torah, Zachar, Yamin. And when Hashem said, Vihi mavdil ben mayim lemayim, that the waters should be separated, it wasn't that it should stay that forever. It's that we should eternally, constantly be trying to figure out how to merge both of these worlds. In the era of Mashiach Tzidkenu, the higher waters and the lower waters come one for real, Zachar and Nekeva, Kucha Brichu Shchinte, Mashpia and Mekabel, right and left, it comes together. That's the purpose of creation in this world, is to reconnect that which was once separated. Many people say this, the same Indian of Bemet, of soulmates. Are they soulmates? If we believe that we have a soulmate, that means we're really one neshama, we're one soul. And we were sent down into this world where neshamas were cut into half, kivyachol, or parts of it was disconnected, only in order to find themselves again. Today, chas v'shalom, if you say in the world that soulmates are Zachar and Nekeva, is already like an Isser Gomer and B'divrei Sofrim She'el Yameinu, to even chas v'shalom utter such words that soulmates are only male and female, if you understand what I'm saying. Mishugin. But to also say that the Zachar and Nekeva is like this, no, it's Nekeva, whatever, it doesn't matter. But all we know is that even once you find your soulmate, that's when the real work begins. You may have found it, but that's when it only begins. Like the funny smirk on all your faces as I said those words.
Did you see today's Yom Yom?
Not yet.
It's Gaval. Can I read it quickly?
I'd rather, if it's okay, just to stick to this. My time is limited. Everyone should look at the Yom Yom of today. Tachlis Tikkun HaMetzias. So the Tachlis of really fixing a reality. Hashayeches the sphere of Malchus, which has to do with the sphere of Malchus. He aliyah legova rav yoter. Higher and higher, higher and higher. You're about to look at the world and experience the reality from a much higher place. Remember what the Piasetzner Rebbe told us in the Hagdama for Bnei Machshava Tova? He said the reason of establishing a society of Chevra like this is that we just want to start looking at the world and at life from a little bit of a higher sphere. The Piasetzner Rebbe writes this in the beginning of Bnei Machshava Tova. We want to look at the world from just a higher. The whole world looks at the world face value. We want to look at the world from a higher place. And in the world of Malchus, everything is being done and seen through a higher realm. HaMalchus meshakefes es oran shel kol asfiros shemalea. So Malchus, listen, just look for a second visually, it always is that the Malchus is the lowest, right, of the spheres. But really what it serves as is a reflector back up to everything that goes back up. It's the reflector, and it takes all the light and goes back up, brings it back up, the reflection of it. I got the goosebumps as I'm saying this. Did I tell you the story that happened to me yesterday? Well, it happened really 2 weeks ago, but I'll show you the picture afterwards. About 2 weeks ago, I was in Yerushalayim. I had a meeting in the center of around the Shuk area, and then a good friend of mine, I was going with him somewhere else afterwards. He said, "I'm a little bit early. Are you by any chance around the Shuk? We'll grab a quick bite, and then we'll go to where we have to go to." I'm like, we're going to run late. He's like, "Don't worry, just come. It's fine." So we go. We sit at a restaurant, order something. A waiter that comes out, this guy, this young kid, full of chen. Mom is shining. Real sweet boy, like really, really beautiful boy. But it's one of these faces, he looks a little familiar, and I see he's looking at me and he's trying to figure out who I am too. The whole time we're serving tzchokim, a lot of chen, mamish. At the end of the meal, my friend asks him, "Tagid li, ech korim lecha?" And he says, "Ani Razel. I'm a Razel. I'm one of the Razels." Yonatan and Aaron have a sister, Rika, who did the davening here for the women on Hallel of Zos Chanukah. She's a musician too. There's another brother, Yehuda. He's like a Rebbe. I know the family since I'm a teenager. I've been friendly with the family. So this is Yehuda's son. So, and he said, Katz, because he remembered me as a kid. I was around much more. I was living there. I used to live there, but I didn't see this kid in ages. A lot of chen. Next morning, he's driving his motorcycle, his tustus. He gets rammed from behind. He sat in Shari Tzedek for 2 weeks, completely out, and he died this last Shabbos. I saw him Wednesday afternoon, after not seeing him for 15, 16 years. The next morning, this happens to him. I couldn't believe it. This stuff, Lo mevin. When she came here to do the Hallel, he was in intensive care, and whenever I would see Tom or Yishai, when Yishai was in the hospital, or other chevra, the Razels were just up all over the hospital with instruments and just trying to, who knows what it was. I asked, I was with Naftali, I asked Naftali, at that time we went to eat, I said to him, because he always documents everything. It's the weirdest thing. We'll be sitting at a gas station, takes out the camera, always. I said to him, Tagidli, did by any chance you take any pictures that day we went out? Because it's a normal question. And he's like, I don't know, I'm gonna check. And then he looks at his phone, he's like, I did, but it's just you and I sitting there. He actually did. He documented us eating lunch. But so he takes a picture, he shows something in the picture, and he's like, wait a second, bro, look at the window. And you go closer, and it's mamish, his reflection, serving me food, smiling to me. Probably the last picture of him in this world. So I went to the Shiva yesterday in Lachlot. I sat with the father, and I said, listen, this is I don't know how to tell you this, but I want to show you something. And I showed him the picture, and then I zoomed in, and he sees a reflection, like an Or Choizer, the last image of his son. So like when I saw this word, I'm sorry I went off on a little tangent here, but when I saw this word that Malchus is a reflection of all the spheres above it. So afterwards the father said to me, he says, you see the Pele here? That he was already, the last day of his life, he's an Or, he's a mashkif. He was already kilu half there, without knowing it, reflective light. Back, I'll show you the picture afterwards. Mavhil. Neshama should have an aliyah. Be'ezer Hashem. They're still sitting Shiva till Shabbos. So this sphere of Malchus, all the spheres of Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet, we learn all about it. But within the Kli of Malchus, which means that with Mashiach, all the avodas of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, they all receive extra koyach, a hashlama, a completion of all the light that it tried to bring down when it was operating on its own. But when it comes together with Malchus, Malchus completes it and elevates the whole thing to another realm. You know, Chaver, I realize we're speaking so much Kabbalah in these shiurim, and I know it's hard, and I know that, very little is probably seeping in even to me, that I kivyochol have prepared this stuff, but you should just know, Rabbi Nachman says, the way he used to learn, he used to just go through learning, even if he didn't understand it fully. He said a person shouldn't get stuck. They should just keep on learning, and then things, whether you realize it or not subconsciously, they do seep in, because if you get stuck and you won't move on until you feel like you chapped something al borio, which means fully and completely. He didn't say this, but I think what he was alluding to is that there's a little bit of gaiva there saying, I'm going to fully understand something, then I'm going to move on. But if you're talking about Dvar Hashem, Torah, which is infinite, and it's Chochmah Elokis Ein Sof, who could ever say they ever fully chapped something in the Torah, and then I'm going to move on? It doesn't work like that. In the beginning, when you're doing Tanya Yomi, daily Tanya, the first 2 months is Gewalt. Then you start getting ripped with Alter Rebbe, and you're like, whoa, this is not what I signed up for, right? Especially go to Shayichad Be'amunah. There's some of the Igras too, and Igras HaKodesh, Igras HaTshuva. But you gotta I would say even learn Tanya like a Breslover, which is interesting. But I think that so that's what I'm saying. We're learning a lot of spheres here, Malchus, Chesed, Gvura. I know that it's not the complete picture, obviously, because I'm not trying to be humble by saying this. I'm not a teacher for Kabbalah. I could give over certain concepts on a very basic level, but we're doing the best that we can with it. Okay? So המלכוס משקפת את אורן של כל הספירות שמעליה ומחזירה את האור הזה אל מקורו המוחלט באור אינסוף ברוך הוא. בנקודה זו, at this stage of מלכוס, מסעלים המים התחתונים והעליונים גם יחד. Then what ends up happening? The merger. ונכללים במקום בו אין כל הפרדה בין מעלה ומטה, the higher waters, lower waters. זכר ונקבה, ימין ושמאל. Mashpia umekabel. Anything that got separated at the time of creation gets unified again in a manner that can't be separated ever again. Now, ala makom hazeh, on this place where there's no separation between the waters, Amar Rabbi Akiva. This is the famous Gemara in Chagiga. This is referring to the Arba Nichnasu Lepardes, which you're all semi-familiar with, the 4 people that entered the Pardes. Rabbi Akiva said, Kshatem megi'im etzel avnei shayish tahor, al tomru mayim, mishum shenemar doiver shkorim lo yikon leneged einai. Does anyone know what this is referring to? Has anyone learned this before? Yeah, El, you want to explain what Rabbi Akiva told them?
covered with sapphire.
Nachon.
When you get there, so don't claim it's water because it's not. Whatever it is, it's not that.
Whatever it is, it's not that.
So don't freeze it. Don't say what it is because that's not.
You're trying to give a definition to it, and it's not whatever you're saying it is. Avnei Shaish Tar is a sapphire stone. Okay? So, Ha'amira, but the weird thing is that Rabbi Akiva said, don't say that it's water. Why didn't he just say, don't say that it's water? So you see what Rav Ginsburg's doing with this, right? When a person says, Rabbi Diuk, exactly. Don't say it's water, meaning, don't say there's something separate here going. You're in the Pardes. It's all one over there, right? And it's beyond your ability to conceptualize things and to understand things. Amira, Mayim, the statement saying, water, mitzayenet et kiyuman shel shtei mahuyot nivdalot. Saying water is basically saying there are two separate entities going on. Ach b'madrega zo, but in the Pardes, in the Malchus, ein kol havdala. There's no separation at all. Hakol, everything, achdus pshuta, is simple oneness. V'yesh lizar shelo lechalala mitoch choser havana. And because of a lack of understanding of what's going on, a person must be very careful not to mechalal this place of oneness. And this is what he's describing will be the state of Malchus, of Mashiach ben David. Because Mashiach is going to come into the world, and it says this is the most like I don't want to say I'm being very careful with my lashon because we have a bunch of beautiful chevra that are not from Amcha Beis Yisrael that learn with us. Very special, good people that are constantly in touch with me all the time. It's anti the notion that Mashiach had come already. That's all I'm going to say. Why? Because when Mashiach comes, it's not mayim. There's no separate and it'll come back. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Doesn't it say something like flowing water from him or something? There's some reference somewhere brought down. When Mashiach comes, that it will be like
flowing water.
Some along those lines. I don't remember.
I'm sure.
Like,
The knowledge of God, yeah. Kamayim le'yamachasim. Umala aretz de'es Hashem kamayim le'yamachasim. But that's interesting. You know, it's so interesting that there's no singular word for water.
That's exactly what the note says.
Yeah. There's no singular word for water. What's also interesting is that water is the only thing in creation that was created before the creation of the world. It never says that water was created. Rav Shlomo said that's why sometimes when you're feeling shvach, you're feeling dry, and you feel like you don't have koyach anymore, you put water on your face, suddenly that thing brings you back to life. It's because it comes from even before creation of the world somehow. When we get introduced to water, it's about separation. Which actually stems perfectly with what we're learning over here, because we're talking about getting back to a state that's ki'ilu before the creation of the world. Where there was the creation of the world, there's havdala, there's separation, be mavdil ben maim l'maim. Maybe that's why he brought this Gemara down, because he's saying, Rabbi Akiva is saying, when you get to that place called Pard, how do you know you're there or not? If you're really there, if you're able to say, there's maim, meaning, it means you're still in the world of definitions, of tags, of labels. That's not what it's about. And that's why it's so depressing sometimes to still see that after we came back after 2,000 years, that we're still so sunken in to labels, and this is not what it's supposed to be about. What did Jerry say to you that was very profound you shared with me this week?
At some point, Klal Yisrael stopped serving
God.
Hashem and started to serve religion.
Take that one. Like coming back to Eretz Yisrael 2,000 years was about to start serving Hashem again. It's a very, very deep thing. Now, I also say that you can get very lost with statements like that unless they're put in the proper context. But it's in its core, there's nothing more accurate than that statement.
It's emet.
What's that?
Not emet. Emet. You can't say it to the chutznik. Say whatever you want. Maybe they want to take it. I don't know. Whatever. You can say it. Okay. So you can't say it. You could say whatever you want. But if you want to be be impactful with communities of prayer, and it's not going to close so you can think.
Right. Well, it's not so much, but listen, practically speaking, what are we trying to get in this shir? So he says over here, Mifchina ma'asit. Look at the bottom paragraph. Mifchina ma'asit, practically speaking, malchus metukenet, proper malchus. Everything okay, Baruch?
I'm just looking for my book. I'll be okay.
There's, I'm sure someone of the chaver took it, maybe. Okay.
There's booklets over here also. The paper, just sheets, yeah.
And there's sheets also. Okay.
You can look how someone else thinking.
No, but take the Baruch, take the sheets right there in front of you. Mivchina ma'asit, practically speaking, malchus metukenes. That means fixed, real, proper malchus, which unfortunately is nothing close to what we're seeing today in Am Yisrael and in the leadership of Eretz Yisrael. Nothing.
Yet.
Nothing remotely close, bichlal, to what is happening today, specifically today in Am Yisrael. Malchus metukenes mashma izgalusa shel Mashiach ben David. That means the revelation of Mashiach ben David. Melech Yisrael, the king of Israel. Now he says an amazing thing here. She'yitachen shehaya imanu kvar zman rav kodem lachen. Could be Mashiach's been around for a long time before he reveals himself. Ach rak ka'et hu yachol yitgalot, but he can only be revealed now. So that's the wink that I feel like Mashiach, it could very well be that Mashiach is actually alive right now. Maybe he's been alive for a while already, but it's not his time to be for revelation yet. Hamanhig elav miachel ha'am va'elam kulo. This is the leader. All our eyes are looking towards. The whole world is looking towards this leader. Hu atid livnos es beis hamikdash hashlishi ve'anitzchi. Don't get too excited if Trump decides to build the third Beis Hamikdash. It's not what we're hoping for. It's not what we're looking for. He may very well do that. By like you have no, and he also may decide for there to be a church in there. Understand? No one should be too excited about him right now. Not at all. This pressure that we're under right now to rip our people into half. Where do you think it's coming from? It's coming from a different agenda. It's coming from the agenda of Washington. It's not coming from the agenda of Yidden. This is Achashverosh 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. This is like the most wildest unknown that we've ever had before. You see, with former presidents like all of them, Clinton and Hussein and Biden, all these presidents were not really like wild cards. Not like, oh my God, how could you? Here you have no idea. You mamash have no idea. We're looking for Mashiach to build the third Beis Hamikdash. Rambam. Yachos Melachim. Zeu siyur shel atikun kulo. This is the peak of the tikkun. Bo mitrachesh ma'avar ben Medinat Yisrael lemalchus Yisrael, which were all, people always say the Medina. Like when they say the word Medina, that means you're not into it. If you say Medina, it means you're into it. Medina, right? Medina. Right, so the question is, what's the sefer called? No. Or I don't know anymore. I don't even know anymore. Is this sefer called Tikkun HaMedina or Tikkun HaMedina? You hear what I'm saying? It's both, yeah. He's saying that we're moving from Medinat Yisrael. The goal of 2,000 years was not to have a Medina. It was to have Malchus Yisrael. Malchut, exactly. Malchut is metukan. And when you're there, a Medina needs tikkun. Very good, Hirsch. It's exactly. It's the bidiyuk. It's the reflection of it.
After everything we learned.
Exactly.
Step.
Zeu sio shel hatikun kula. This is the peak of the whole tikkun. Bo misrachesh ma'avar ben Medinat Yisrael lemalchus Yisrael asher begilui hashgacha elokit shetipaem betocha, that through the revelation of hashgacha, of godly hashgacha, which will be pulsing through the malchus, tavi shalom ubracha lechol haolam kulo. It'll bring peace and prosperity to the whole world. Malchus is not a Jewish entity. It's the whole world. The whole world. Everyone. Utchonen es malchus Hashem alei adamos, and it'll establish the malchus of Hashem throughout the whole world. Azai, and in that state, Yavdu kol ha'amim es Hashem yachdav, all nations will serve God together. Can you imagine that? It's so far-fetched from us. All nations of the world will serve God together. All nations.
Does that mean it'll be impossible for somebody to be a bad person at that time with that kind of revelation?
It's the same shaila about will there be the concept of tshuva in that time as well, because it's already so revealed. Will there be death? All these shilas are very relevant shilas. I don't know. Yeah, Dov, what were you saying?
To get to that stage, we have to do complete tshuva. So it makes sense that you wouldn't need to continue doing tshuva. You've done it.
Right, because we can't imagine ever conquering a midah and saying we're fixed and we're done with it.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like in the way we're working with ourselves is like, is there a midah that you could say about yourself, I fixed that one and it's not an issue for me at all, ever?
You could say that, but then you're going to fall.
The second you say that, yeah.
I
Like,
literally was just telling Ellie yesterday. Like it's so crazy how you think that you overcome certain things and then boom, shows it and you're like,
are you kidding me? I'm still there? I thought this one was done.
where did that come from?
I thought this one was done. That's why in sobriety, one of the deepest tires is what's the motto? Like what's one of the slogans? Just today. Just for today.
That's all we have is today.
That's all you have. Meaning, you could, and I'm not even going to say today it's fixed. I'm saying today, I have it under control. Well, till this second, I have it under control. Till right now. In an era of Mashiach, it seems like that language is going to be a different language.
1,000 years at a time.
You don't know. It'll be something else. It's not going to be this. But this lashon of saying like then the whole world will serve God together, it's not Rav Ginsburg's theory. It's from the Navi.
You learn with Rav Gilad, the Chabad Shliach, the Min Tamar here, and we learn Sichos of the Rebbe. And so this is like, he starts the Sikha with the Rambam, saying, I didn't know this, it's not just Sifita Yeshua, like we do that in davening, and like that's, it's like you need to actively be not just like anticipating, thinking, I believe Mashiach's going to come, anticipating it, and then discussing what it's going to look like. Actually learning like this. It's going to look like this. It's going to be like that. And this, by the way, is just the first stage. Rambam's like a lot more cooler. It's not so unnatural. Later, there'll be maybe a Mason thing. And then the Rebbe goes off to say, like Gola, Galut that we're in right now, and Geula, it's just an olive. It's just an olive that's separating it. He actually was like, he's like, it's not such a big difference between like us now and this. It's really a lot closer than you think, and not only is it closer than you think, it's kind of built upon what we're dealing with right now. So like this is actually like fulfilling that mitzvah of the Rambam, which is also nice, and I also think it's not so far. Separately, I just want to ask this. Like I think of
wait. Before that, I'm just going to add. That's what we've been learning for a year and a half. Sunday morning women's shir. That's why I send you guys those shirim sometimes. Is exactly that, learning what it's going to be like, al pi the hora of the Rebbe, to learn about what it's going to be like, because the more you learn it, the Rebbe says two things happen. The more you're actually mishtokek, the more you actually long, and the more you're actually bringing it closer.
Yeah, I think,
What's the second thing? The question?
Second thing is it's a little bit different.
I'm glad you think he's right.
Yeah.
Makes me feel really good that he set me up for that.
I can't.
I know him.
This safe air. I'm just trying to see ourselves in history. Like this safe air. If I brought it to like Rashi and Worms, or even though Oheg is strong, or if instead of Altenland, Herzl like say, hey guys, at Bessel, like switch them. Here it is. Like this is something to get you wrap your dimion minds around all the pain, suffering that we're dealing with through all this Polish exiles and pogroms and wanting to have our own land. This is it. How would it go over? If he brought this for approbation to any of those Rebbes then, right? So they know Kabbalah, they know everything that we're talking about here, and like would they think, are you nuts? Are you making any would this go anywhere? I'm just trying to like this is only, wow, like we're really able to be in a time period we could even have this discussion. That's why the Sefer is so matin for now. Did you hear the question?
Actually, it didn't exist then for a reason. The world wasn't ready for it.
He also is bringing concepts that were around then. It's not like
Right, they were.
he's organizing them for sure into one sefer, but it's not like the
Yeah, I was gonna.
Ginsburg's. I mean, he's Kiddush to organize it this way, but he's just taking pieces that were there.
That's right. So I'm just like it was brought up. Maybe you're right. It comes down to not being ready, which is if I go to Rav Tritel and anyone let me speak, I'm like, hey, that's really good. Let me just kind of codify it a little more in the upper world.
He's a good example because
Yeah.
Rav Teichtel, because I think that with him, he would be shocked that there'd be a need for a sefer like this. He'd be shocked behind his core that there'd still be a need for a sefer like this.
He himself did tshuva. He was trying to do people, to live with people.
I mean, I think we're all working through the Sefer, but looking at where we are today, right now, I'm banking on clarifying. I have no
Yeah.
idea how
Me
else
too.
this is. No idea.
Me too. I just don't want to be surprised
Yeah,
when it actually
exactly.
happens.
Just-
Yeah.
Just read, prepare.
Yeah. I mean, you're really. I think what you're not saying, and maybe you want to say it, is like, why is it that if we took this sefer to most rabbanim today, they'd say to you, "You're a kooks."
Even today when we're quote
Yes.
unquote ready for it.
Yes.
We're not.
Well,
We're still not.
we're still not, and that's why I go back to Hershey. No, I'm standing on blood of chayalim and saying, Hashem Yisbarach, I'm not willing to be ready for any of this to happen. I'm demanding of you, omek libi, now. That's what those two things. That's what I'm banking on. You go to anyone today. Forget Arashi, Ramban, the Ramchal. Forget about it. I'm saying go to today. You also know that almost any of these giants don't reach Rav Ginsburg's toenails in understanding Pnimiyas Satira and how things work, right? I mean, Rav Ginsburg is a giant. It'll take 100 years for the world to begin to realize what was in their midst. Maybe, if even that. But why does that deter you from anything? Wondering what they would think.
Because I need, this is like a really, really team effort.
Yeah.
I'm trying to just think how far off we are or how really special and fortunate and unique it is that a little Yossi can be here talking about these kind of ideas. And in those days, even the greats might not even get what's going on here. But
I think that Rav Ginsburg is saying because the Medina, which didn't exist and wasn't an option and wasn't even an efsharut back then, but it is today because that's how Hashem designed it, is the world of possibility, but it's not there yet. It's not there. It needs the tikkun. So I think the only reason is you were thrown into living in a generation where this is actually something that you could work with because you were born into a world that has a Jewish state and has Jewish sovereignty, whatever that means. After 2,000 years, they didn't. It wasn't a reality in their time. That was not what was going on. So most Rabbanim wanted to keep on being blind eye, not looking at it, or saying it's too much of a danger because you're dealing with Eretz Yisrael and it's too much Kedusha, which you have to respect that, like the Satmar Rebbe's Chus Yagin Aleinu. Or you could go into Rav Kook's eyes and saying, I need to see beyond. I need to look beyond. There's no way that coming back to Eretz Yisrael 2,000 years, and even though the state was only established 13 years after he was nifter, there's no way to look at it and say, this is just a nice attempt, but really it has nothing to do with Hashem. It wasn't part of what they were working with, but we're thrown into a world that this is what we have to work with. So you either look at it as an opportunity to say, I could fix this kli, or I could go and say, listen, why should it happen now if it wasn't happening at the time of Rashi or the Baal Shem Tov? I think the answer is clear. You don't have an option. Because if you actually thought with an option, there's no reason you should be living here. None of us should be living here. Doing what? Doing what? Well, what are we busy doing here? Being Jews here? To be a much, much better Jew, secluded somewhere in upstate New York. Much better Jew.
I was looking on Zillow last night at like random properties in Colorado.
Here he is.
My question is this: were you ready for your bar mitzvah? You prepared a lot, but you had no idea what it was going to be like. Were you ready for
Fatherhood?
For your wedding, for your father, for your child, for all that? We had no idea what it was going to be like. And it was coming. There was nothing. It's coming. It's just you're there. It's coming. Just prepare. Prepare for the best. Hope for the best. Prepare for the worst.
But prepare, that's the key word. Prepare. Yeah.
You're creating your own team.
You don't think that everyone, you guys really don't buy into it yet that like, once we really get our acts together here and explain what we're trying to do and present it to the world, that thousands and thousands aren't going to join us?
For sure, I believe that.
You guys don't, what do you think we're doing here? Just to like get excited on Monday and Wednesday mornings? You guys don't buy into it yet, huh?
Show up every week.
I remember the moment in Uman by the Rebbe's Kever where
You said it.
Screamed Ti Mashiach.
You said it. What do you think, that was a cute slogan when you were lying down in that homeless person's mattress? Then you went
That I forgot about. Thanks for reminding me.
Then you realized
Pulled me
that
out of my deep sleep. Come over here.
you're sleeping there, yeah? And what's from the deep sleep by Rabbi Nachman's Tzion comes out of your mouth, Ti Mashiach? You think any of us think you're kidding when you say that? I don't. Your wife quoted it at a meeting this week trying to explain what we're trying to do here. Yeah. So it wasn't in the cards back then. Like back then, maybe like into Hirsch's analogy of becoming a bar mitzvah, I don't know, life kind of stopped at like 9. Here you're born into a world where they're like, so listen, the whole life cycle's right here. What's it going to look like in your time? A sefer like this would have no shaykhus in a world where it wasn't possible.
I think of those guys who say, this is before reform, like the 1800s, and go back then, this is before reform conservative, they're dealing with the pogrom, they're looking for something special, they all know about Eretz Yisrael, because they're all reading the same Torah we are. I'm talking to Rav Kiva Eger, who knows Pneumius Torah, right, and he must know it, and so they're there, they don't have the outside world influences that we have to now clean up, so to speak, today. I'm assuming they have these, they have these things already.
I'll answer you, Reb Shlomo. Reb Shlomo, whenever he referenced the 6 million, he always spoke about the gates that they opened up for us on the other side when they came through. He always spoke about the 6 million in reference to them being the gate openers. And that's very clear. Like that's not a confusing topic. The fact that like we could discuss this for forever, but like 6 million were killed. So then you're going to say, and that's why we have a Jewish state. No, that's why we have an opportunity to bring Malchus in the world. Not just an opportunity, it's almost this obligation. That did not happen in the time of Rabbi Akiva Eger. It didn't happen in the time of the Maharal. It didn't happen in the time of the Alter Rebbe. That shift, that insanity, that crazy, those things did not take place then. We are still living through that cycle.
You ready to give the Yom Yom?
But in many ways, we're like in the deepest galus in the world here.
I did.
And on the other, but you have to choose, do I want to keep on looking at Eretz Yisrael like that? Or do I actually want to be on the side that says that that's not helpful?
Right.
That statement is not helpful, even if it's the reality.
So
We're aware of it already.
What's the flip side then? This.
Tikkun. The work. Tikkun.
You could sit twiddling your thumbs waiting for Mashiach.
Right.
Or like Moshe, Kimin
Drawing it out. And there's no stira between the two, the reality, what you're saying.
Right.
There's no stira at all. Yeah.
I just want to say that nowadays, I've looked around the consciousness of the Jewish world, maybe not, different communities. Unfortunately, we have these supposed boxes that we need to sort of remove eventually. It's one of the reasons why I moved here, obviously. But there's a lot of podcasts, a lot of people talking about their tshuva, their geirus, and all the podcasts are very interested in these interesting stories. one thing I don't see a theme of, which is really bothering me, I didn't do tshuva to join the club. No way. Yeah, did not. And I always feel a little bit that's what the kind of, they all like look the part and the whole thing. I did tshuva for Mashiach. That was it. And it's still it. And that's until I go to the grave. That's it. Or hopefully Mashiach will be here. I mean, I had the schus to be by a Rav, Nachman Bullman. And the last time he ever spoke in Osamer, he cried the whole time about Mashiach. That was it. I just want to become Pnei Mashiach Sikenu. That's it. That's what we should be wanting. And that for me was like sealed the deal. I'm coming. He's my rabbi. That's who I want to know.
And today you have voices within Yiddishkeit that even tell you that's not healthy. And that drives me insane. Right? They say that's not a healthy, that's not a Jewish way of it's crazy. That, no, meaning that what he's describing about his passion and his drive.
They sent me to psychologists, they did everything.
That's crazy.
The psychologist said the only problem you have is you're not learning enough Hasidus in your yeshiva. That's what and I said, you're telling him that. Thank God I had such a psychologist.
Mamish, thank God. Can you? No, that's Ashgacha. Like, I mean, you know your story reminds me of Chaim Yudelman, Dr. J. Same thing. His Inyan of Lubavitch and Tshuva was the Mashiach. Like, wait a second. There are people that are speaking about what we really, really want, which is basically the end over here. That the pasuk from Tzfania is. From Tzfania, Kedivrei Tzfania Hanavi, Ki az epoch elamim safa brura likro kulam b'shem Hashem le'ovdo shchem echad. What else are we in this for? What else are we in this for? And if that's what we're in this for, like Eli described so beautifully right now, it's going to be intense. It's not going to be comfortable. You're going to notice everything. You'll be aware of all the mishigases in the world. But what's the option? Building museums in memory of the Shoah and saying they're still in our hearts? Can't be. There's no other way. We cannot, it sounds chutzpahdik to say, it's a very Lubavitch smell, we can't let the Ribono Shel Olam off the hook. I know it sounds insane to say such words, but he does not want us to let him off the hook. He does not want us to let him off the hook. So we're going to learn here whatever we can to create some type of derech of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to think, and to speak with more and more. Trust me, this is all, for me personally, this is the greatest preps for next week's summit. You have no idea about Pnimiyas HaTorah. This is like beyond exactly like where things are at. Right, there's 4 hands up, and I can't take any of them because I have to run to Yerushalayim. I love you guys. We're going to continue Be'ezer Hashem on Monday. It's really, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you, I have to run into town.